right, I'm in Hebrews chapter 11, and I'm going to be in verse 7 in this message with regards to the testimony of Noah. We have the testimony of Abel, we have the testimony of Enoch, we have the testimony of Noah. That's what it means in Hebrews chapter 11 when it speaks of faith. Faith is the response to the truth that is revealed to a person, and their response, in effect, becomes a big part of their testimony that there is a God and who He is. That's effectively what we have. So with the testimony of Abel, what was the testimony of Abel, the faith of Abel? That had to do with the fact that we have a God who sees us, and He's going to have a relationship with us only on the basis of our believing and trusting Him. He's not going to have a relationship with us because of what we do or what we don't do, because of our obedience, because we follow the directions. That's not that's not going to be the root cause or the foundation through which He builds a relationship with us. With Abel, he presented an offering before God that was not like Cain's, and it had to do with the attitude of his heart, that he wanted to present to God part of what he had. What he had was not a reflection of what God told his father Adam to do. Not Abraham, Adam. What He told his father Adam to do, which was to work the ground. Abel took care of flocks. That's what he did instead, took care of animals. And so his offering was something that he presented to God as something that he wanted to share, and that he was not trying to assert his right standing before God because of what he did, because he followed the instructions, or he followed the rules, or he followed the laws. So this is what the testimony of Abel is about. It is about a God who wants to have a relationship with us that is based on our believing and trusting Him and our wanting Him to be a part of our lives, but that this relationship is not going to be a relationship such that we do for Him and then He does for us, as if He owes us, as if He is indebted to us, and our right standing before Him is not going to be defined by our works. It is only going to be defined by our trust and our belief. That is the testimony of Abel. And then we have the testimony of Enoch, where there just isn't a whole lot for us to go on with regards to what is recorded. But one thing that we do have, that we do know, is that Enoch walked with God. Whatever that meant to him, that's what he did. And it was meaningful to God that there was someone who would walk with him. So the testimony of Enoch, we could say that the testimony of Enoch shares with us that we have a God who wants us to walk with Him. We have a God who wants us to walk with Him, and we have a God who wants to walk with us. To have a relationship that is based on going through the life that we have, living the life that we have, and for one another to be present with one another, and to perhaps be mutual participants with one another. All right, the testimony of Enoch concerning the living God. All right, so how about the testimony of Noah? By faith, this is verse 7, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 7, by faith, Noah, being divinely warned of things not yet seen, moved with godly fear, prepared an ark for the saving of his household, by which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is according to faith. All right, so God divinely warned Noah and told him that there is going to be a change. Noah did not see this change until later, this flood, much later. God told him, we don't know the details concerning how He communicated this to Noah, but somehow God got through to Noah in a way that Noah was not confused. All right, there was no uncertainty. There was no guessing. Am I hearing from God or not? There was nothing like that going on. What does God want me to do? What is his will for my life? None of that was happening. God does not have any communication issues. He doesn't have a communication problem. If he has something to say to somebody, he will make sure that he says it in a way that there is no uncertainty, that it is God speaking to them. He will be sure that that takes place. So he got through to Noah, and he told Noah, look, something is going to happen. There will be a flood. You're going to need a boat. So build a boat. Noah didn't see anything. He didn't see anything happening. He didn't have anything to go on besides the truth that God revealed to him. He believed God. He believed him, and he did what God told him to do. He responded to the truth. He is a testimony. He has a testimony about the living God. He testifies that there is a God. He is, in effect, somewhat evidence that there is a God. And he responded to that truth, and through his response, he testified of what was important to God, of what he was going to do, and then he eventually did that, and that was a big change in humanity. All right? So let me go back to Genesis chapter 6 and take a look at what happened with this situation, what happened with Noah. I'm going to turn back to Genesis chapter 6 and begin in verse 5. Genesis chapter 6, beginning in verse 5. It says, Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Now, that's pretty aggressive, sometimes when we think of another person, we'd like to think that there might be something good about them per se. May seem a little awkward to say that this is a person within their heart there is nothing but evil continually. Not just that person, but a lot of them. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man in general was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart, it was big. It was a big deal, that there was more than enough. All right? And you might wonder, could there really be people like this? And I can tell you, as for myself, that I have encountered some people in my life who, as far as I could tell, the only thoughts that they have were evil. And it was just continual, relentless, as if their entire identity, their entire purpose in life is to be evil in many respects. And some evil, of course, would be considered to be worse than others, but still, it was to that kind of magnitude. And so how did God feel about these people? You keep reading. In verse 6, And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved. All right, now this is profound. All right, now this is a very profound expression of the feelings of God, of how he felt. He felt sorry. He really did. He was so sorry that he made humanity. He was practically apologetic in that sense. He was apologetic, he was depressed, he was sad. He was genuine. When you say that you're sorry, it may not be that you're really sorry, But with God, when he says he's sorry, he is sorry that he made man. Because all they do is engage in evil. That's all. That's what they do. So that's what this is all about, right? He makes this wonderful planet. This extraordinary creation. And he creates these people, right? He creates these people. And this is what they do, right? This is what they do. They have nothing but evil in their hearts continually. And he's looking at all of this, after a few generations have passed. And he's thinking, I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry I did this. That's what he says. So, what's he going to do? In verse 7, so the Lord said, I will destroy man, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping thing and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I have made them. So I will destroy them. That's what I will do. It's a way of God saying, you know, there is definitely something wrong here. All right? I mean, these people are just downright evil. There is clearly something wrong with them. So what I'm going to do, this is what God is effectively stating. What I'm going to do is the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to acknowledge my part in this. You know, that's what God said. He says, I'm going to acknowledge that I had a part in this. I'm the one who created these people. You know, they're alive because of me. And I'm the one who provided them with this wonderful earth, with this abundance of food, the means of producing whatever food that they require, the water, the animals, the minerals, the everything that this world has to offer. I'm the one who made this. I'm the one who provided all of this. And I'm going to acknowledge that it's my fault. You know, that's effectively what he says. He says it's in a sense his fault. All right? I mean, it's definitely their fault. They are responsible for their evil, but he's confessing that he had a part in this as well. So, he's going to fix this. That's what he's going to do. He sees the problem, and he will provide a solution. And his solution is to just destroy everything that he made. That's the solution, you know? All right? I mean, he's very sorry that he created everything. So he's going to destroy everything, and that will fix this, you know, because in a sense, it is his fault that he gives these people air to breathe, food to eat, the means of providing themselves with shelter and, you know, all that they need to sustain their lives and enjoy themselves. So he's going to take away their ability to breathe. That's what he's going to do. That's the solution to his part of this problem. He's going to just simply say, you know, I'm no longer going to provide you with any land to be on and any air to breathe, in a sense, because you're not going to be able to tread water for very long. You're going under the water, and you are going to drown, and you are going to be dead. That will be the solution. Okay? With the exception of Noah and his family, you keep reading, in verse 8, but Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. This is the genealogy of Noah. All right, and then he goes on with that. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Going to verse 11, the earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. So God looked upon the earth, and indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. That's what he says. Noah found grace, so he spoke with Noah, and he says, you know what, Noah? This is what I'm going to do in order to fix this problem. Now, when the word grace is used in this sense, it means that God doesn't owe Noah anything. Noah has not done anything that would justify God giving him anything or helping him with anything or saving his life. Noah has no claim on God. Noah cannot go before God and say, you know, my thoughts were not evil continually like everybody else's, so you shouldn't be drowning me. Noah is not going to be able to have that claim before God. God is being gracious. He says, I will save your life outside or on the basis of my grace and mercy. And so God selected Noah as a person and his immediate family who would survive. All right, so what did he do? He told Noah in verse 14, Genesis chapter 6, verse 14, make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark and cover it inside and outside with pitch. And this is how you shall make it. And he talks about the dimensions of the ark, and then he explains that he will establish a covenant with Noah in verse 18, but I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall go into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you. And of every living thing of all flesh you shall bring two of every, and he talks about the animals and stuff that God will actually bring to the ark. So Noah was to do his part, which was to build the ark, and God effectively did his part, which was to bring all of the animals to the ark. All right? And that was it. That was it. Noah responded to the truth that was revealed to him, and he built the boat. There wasn't a whole lot more to say. There wasn't a whole lot more for Noah to necessarily understand. And so if you were to go to Noah and you were to see what he was doing, then, what would this conversation look like? Or if Noah went to town, which I'm sure he did on occasion in order to get supplies or something. Whenever he interacted with other people, what was that conversation going to look like? Was Noah going to call them to repent? Repent and obey God. Or there will be eternal destruction in your life. That's not what happened. He just went about his business. He did his thing, which was to build the boat. And I can just imagine some people asking him, hey, Noah, what are you doing? So, well, I'm building a boat. All right, why are you doing that? And he would say, well, there is a God who told me that he's going to destroy the earth with a flood, and that this is what he wanted me to do. And so this is what I'm doing. And the person might, if this was you, you might ask Noah, so Noah, sounds pretty serious. What do you suppose I should do? And Noah might reply to you and say something to the effect of, well, God is obviously not giving you any particular instructions, and so I guess you're just one of those who he intends to kill and send you to hell. I think that's what's going on with you. And that would probably be the end of the conversation, or pretty close to it. What kind of advice would Noah have for people? God told him to do this, and that's what he's doing, but he didn't tell them to do anything, so they're probably not going to be included in this. And so whenever Noah would be around another individual, just by his presence alone, he would be condemning the world because of what he believed and because of what he did in response to what he believed. By default, he was expressing condemnation towards everyone who would have any knowledge or access to him at all. If you were to ask him about this God, if you were to ask him, Noah, this sounds pretty real. Tell me about this God. What can you say about this God? How can you express him so that I might know him? What do you know about this God? And what would Noah say? As far as we can tell from what we've got, we could say, well, Noah would probably reply with, well, I know that this God is very upset that he has provided you with air to breathe. And I know that this God is very sad and very sorry that he's provided you with all that you need in order to sustain and build your life and to make it better. He feels really bad about that. Just awful. So he's going to fix this. He's going to fix this, and he's going to destroy you and everyone you know and everything on this earth. And he told me to build a boat. So I'm building a boat. And that's about all that I know about this God. As far as we can tell, that's just about all that he could say. You know, he gave me the directions, he gave me the dimensions, and there just isn't much more to say. So I guess he's not talking. You know, or maybe he is and it wasn't recorded. But from what we have here of the remaining testimony of Noah, that's all we've got. You would ask Noah, Noah, testify of our God. Tell us about our God. Well, you know, he's a God of deep feelings, and he told me to build a boat, and then, boy, he sure did flood the earth. And that's about all I can say. You know? And so for 120 years, Noah built this boat. 120 years of testifying of these things. And nobody converted, with the exception, I suppose we could say, of his wife and his 3 sons and their wives. But that was about all that Noah could testify of, if you were to describe this as the testimony of God. But as simple as it is, it's meaningful. It's very meaningful. And I want you to understand that there was mutual participation going on to help you to see that you have a God who wants you to participate in the things that he is doing, and you have a God who wants to be a participant in the things that you are doing. Going back again to Hebrews chapter 11, verse 7, it says, by faith Noah, being divinely warned of things not yet seen, moved with godly fear, prepared an ark for the saving of his household, by which he condemned the world. As I said, because of his actions, it was an expression of condemnation towards everybody else. And he became heir of the righteousness which is according to faith. He became the inheritor of righteousness, a right standing with God, because he believed God and he responded to the truth. He was the only one to survive with that kind of a testimony. Everyone else was gone. And so he became the first person after the flood who everyone would effectively be established from at that point. All right, and so that is the testimony of Noah, and that's what he gave him to do. Now I can relate to this in some ways, you know, on my own as well, because there have been circumstances where my God has given me things to do. Early on in my faith, there were occasions when the Lord would speak to me, and I believe that he spoke to me because I never would have had these thoughts myself, and so it's my explanation for that, to go and talk with certain people. And I would go and I would talk with them, and in the conversation, which could be an hour or 2 hours, or sometimes it would be 4 hours, I would discover that the Lord had been preparing me, discipling me for a year, 2 years in advance. Usually it would be about 2 years, in preparation for that conversation, for that kind of an event. So what did he do? He told me to go talk to somebody. I went and I talked with them. And in doing that, in participating in that, I realized how he was a participant in my life for a long time beforehand, in preparation so that I could be a participant in something that he was doing for a very short period of time. Starting the radio ministry for Living God Ministries was something I did because I genuinely believed that God told me to do that. I can recall sitting in the radio station and getting prepared to do the first recording that I did, which was there at the radio station on October the 30th, 2006. I did 2 programs, one for the 30th and one for the 31st, and then from there I had to proceed and come back and do some more until I could get my own personal equipment up and running. There was a lot of work to do in order to get it going, and I can recall the station manager coming to me when it was time. It was time to really commit. Something needed to go on the air really soon, and and I had to pay for the airtime as well. He needed me to write him a check. And he looked at me, and he had seen a lot of people come and go. A lot of people try to start radio programs, radio ministries, and they would try really hard, and it wouldn't work out. They couldn't keep it going. Happens all the time. And he asked me, are you sure? Are you sure you really want to do this? Because I could tell, and he could tell, that the chances of this being successful and being able to continue was really small. It did not seem to be the case. And I looked at him and I said with total and absolute conviction, I said, well, my God has told me to do this, and so this is what I'm going to do. And he said, okay, there you go. And so I got started with that. And that's what I did. And there have been many times when there has been a circumstance like this where I have had full conviction that the Lord has told me to do something, and I just simply did it. That was my expression of faith, and I'm a testimony of the living God. But there are a lot of other things, more things that I have done that the Lord did not tell me to do, but that I could tell that the Lord came and he participated in the things that I decided to do, that he would be a part of that and make use of what I was doing for the purposes that he has as well. And so when we do things for God, it can be something that we do because it's just something that we want to do, or it can be something that we do because he has given us instructions to do that. And I don't think that we should concern ourselves with trying to distinguish between the two. I've encountered a lot of people who take this position that they think, well, unless God has told me to do something, then I'm not going to do it. Unless he blesses me through it, I'm not going to do it. Well, I don't feel that way. I don't see that. And I've never lived that way, and I don't see ever living that way. And yes, there have been some things that have succeeded and some things that have failed from different perspectives, but I have no regrets concerning making decisions and acting on convictions that I have. And I've enjoyed the journey in many ways. So for those of you who are in some small groups, I have a question for you that you can consider having a discussion with. The question is an open-ended question, and you may have no answer to this, which is understandable and fine, and no one should feel guilty about it at all. But the question is, what has God given you to do? Do you have an answer for that kind of a question? If you don't have an answer for that, if you would say, well, I don't know, this is good, all right? This is good. Because what this also means is that he has given you the freedom and the authority to decide what you want to do. And he will be with you. He will go with you. And so in asking the question, what has God given you to do? Well, if he hasn't given you anything, then you are free to do something until he does, until he gives you something to do otherwise, and then you might need to put something aside that you are doing, even if he's making great use of it himself. You never know. These are individual circumstances, and it's something that I think is worthy of having a conversation with. Or maybe you can remember something that he has given you to do, that you have conviction about. This was something that God gave for you to do. So you can speak of these things, testify of these things, and encourage one another concerning these things. And again, if he's given you nothing to do, you should think of that as a wonderful opportunity to have the freedom to decide what kinds of things that you would like him to do, that you will drag him along with you in a sense, and he will participate with you just because he dwells within you, and he will go wherever you go and be a part of whatever you decide to do. All right? So in the next message, I'll get into verse 8 with regards to the testimony of Abraham. Thanks.